show going and everything of the sort. You guys are more than welcome to basically put out your questions and so on and so forth. Again, this whole experience is completely and utterly just for your space to be joined and co-created. So you're more than welcome to just stay and watch. Just turn off the mic if you're just like watching, etc., etc. And then whenever you want to sort of like share some information, just press the unmute button. Other than that, yeah. Can you see? We can see you, Dan. Hello.
Oh, hi. Hi. I didn't think I was on.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So other than that, how is everybody doing then? You're okay, Dan? Like, life's good?
Yeah, everything's great. I've just moved today, so I'm pretty excited to settle in.
Wow, cool. Definitely something like a Jupiter going direct experience. Like our lives are now moving forward relative to our desires and excitements. It's like trying to start trailblazing.
It's exactly like that. I've just left my job and picked up and just said, I gotta go. I gotta do this. I'm gonna start making some people happy. I have to leave.
Brilliant. Talk about stepping into your inner lion and courageousness, right? Just like, yep, that's it. Going to challenge all my fears and insecurities.
Yeah, exactly. That last video you put up on YouTube really touched me, and I thought, oh my God, you're talking to me, and this is exactly what I'm going through right now. And thank you so much for that.
You're absolutely welcome. Truly are. It's definitely like it is, to me, it's the most exciting thing in the world to be able to like sit there and like plan this kind of video, connect to that space of consciousness and then capture it and then just release it into the world and see what comes back. And this last one was really well appreciated. And lots of folk came back and they were like, this really like, had an impact. And I'm just sitting there going, yes, humanity, here we come.
and I'm a Taurus as well. So you kind of like just grabbed me and took me and then just spoke to me straight away.
I've actually got, at the moment, 4 videos that are going to come out in a row. And I'm literally going to take like the magnitude of your galactic karma, in other words, what it means to be human and your consciousness and what we have been going through literally on the galactic scale. I'm going to start out there. I'm going to show you exactly why life is the way that it is. And I'm going to sort of like down into this like crystallized sense of, practical purpose. I'm just going to show you the layers and the stuff. And like, honestly, I can share with you right now that not only will I be doing the thing that in every part of my fiber of my beingness, okay, that exists, what I'm about to release in these 4 videos is me, like in a nutshell. It's like where my space is at. It's like what I see, and I can't wait to share it. It's like I've been literally over the last 4 days or 3 days, should I say, chatting to my partner Jen, who facilitates a lot of what you see on YouTube. By the way, a lot of the insights and such also come from her going, what about this experience? And then I'm like, just, connecting the dots. So just to need to put it out there, she also actually, helps raising vibrations a crap load. I'm trying to get her to be a little bit more sort of like onto the camera.
Okay. Cool.
So she'll start integrating herself within the next couple of times, and then you'll actually see behind the scenes and raising vibrations. But this piece over here that I'm going to be releasing within the next couple of days, I'm literally like, it's the rawest truth that you can imagine. It's like, it's what it is. It's what reality is. It's what it means to be human. It's your spirituality in this package, and it's every part of my essence. Like, it's like the message I want to bring to the world to really, so that when you see what is happening, why those videos that I've just recently created are in existence, it's because of this package thing. And I really think that you won't be able to walk away from those videos going, yep, I'm going to deny that reality. I'm going to deny that truth. It's like you'll be changed completely. So it's like I've never been so excited to release something like this in my entire life. It honestly is. I've been waiting for this moment, and the process of the information is complete. And it started back like almost 2.5, 3 years ago, where I would get fragments of this information, and then I would go along the process, and then there'd be like a moment in time where I'd be having a conversation with Jen, for instance, and she would she would mention something, and then it would just click. The next piece would just click, 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 and then all of a sudden, literally, just as this new moon in Aries manifested itself with this solar eclipse in Pisces, it was like the apocalypse, and everything was there and open. The veils between reality, the multidimensional self, who you are as a human being, have literally dissolved, and you can see that space. It's available to us if we open up to it. So I'm just like, I can't wait. I couldn't even wait to actually just share it with you guys right now, which is why this is your space, but here I'm blabbing about this experience. But, you know, nevertheless, super, super, super cool. Exciting stuff. Anyway, so here's the space, guys. What do you guys want to chat about? What is it that you've got on your mind in terms of questions you'd like me to share with you? Or if you just want to, you know, whatever it is, there's no rules here in that sense.
Well, I had a question. I started out learning Western astrology.
Okay.
And I took that up for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found Vedic astrology, and all of a sudden more clues started to make, the larger puzzle started to make more sense to me. Mm-hmm. And then I found evolutionary astrology. And what I've realized from looking at things from a completely observation standpoint, my moon's at 29 degrees Aquarius, so I'm always in a state of observation. But it seems like evolutionary astrology takes Western and Eastern and brings them together, and then specifically pinpoints the soul's correlation to all of those issues in Western or Eastern.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So we'll make sure I was on the right path.
100%. That is exactly the paradigm. And then I could even take it one step further and share with you that this beautiful principle, this beautiful truth. And that is that the solar system that you exist within, the galaxy that you exist within, has 12 specific archetypal vibrations, which is how you get it represented through the sun as a vibration. She has an essence. Okay, she's very warm and opening and very vibrant when you tap into her consciousness, what the sun represents. You look at something like Saturn, for instance. Now, unfortunately, Saturn and Capricorn in the 10th house in astrology, or the archetype, has been heavily manipulated and distorted, unfortunately. Right. So he doesn't actually represent his true authenticity, but there's another archetype that manifests here in our lives. So the first lens that I want to kind of like put you in when it comes to understanding astrology truthfully is that this universe is made up of 12 archetypes. And these 12 archetypes is what you as a consciousness has chosen to experience yourself through, which is why every single one of us has Scorpio in our chart. Every single one of us has Aquarius in our chart. Right. You understand this point? Each and one of us. So even if you don't have any planets in that archetype, you're still in some way, shape, or form interacting with that experience. Right. And then to kind of elevate that consciousness even more, you'll notice that nature reflects to you all the 12 archetypes themselves, and we and nature are interconnected. We live on Big Mama. So for us in that sense, and we're as a coexisting organic essence with her. Understand yourself as an organic being. Why do you think it's so important to eat a lot of plant-based foods? Because the consciousness of the plant is a receptive giving archetype, which is the intrinsic feminine of nature, of life. When you incarnate into Earth, you incarnate to learn feminine lessons, receptivity, nurturing, protection. You see, this is why we always relate to family as such an important aspect of our lives, because it's femininity that we are embracing, not the masculine infused femininity of competition and trying to get to the top of the ladder, but living. In other words, integration and acceptance. If you ever observe a mother in its heightened capacity, you'll notice that her kids are always playing around her home, and then if they bring friends along, you'll notice that she's very receptive and nurturing of them. Oh, what would you like to eat? Welcome to my home. You know, can you see how that archetype is manifesting itself? So nature and you as a human being coexist, and these 12 archetypes manifest themselves. Therefore, all the 12 archetypes, especially in evolutionary astrology, because it listens to the principles of natural law, which is not laws or identities that we've given to these astrology symbols, but how they actually naturally exist in nature without our integration or our interpretation. Like, what does it look like when we don't, as human beings, exist on Earth? And then you'll start to really get specific and understand the truth behind what astrology or evolutionary astrology is really trying to teach you. Is that as you observe your natal chart, as you look at your astrology, what you are really looking at is the blueprint and fabric of your own soul's archetypal story. You understand? That is connected with nature, and she teaches you. Nature teaches you. She's the best teacher, not me. Because you know why? Because as I stand here right now, everything I share with you is truth from nature itself, what it's showing me. But you'll notice as well that as you understand the truth that exists within nature, you don't need a belief system. It's inherent there. It's fact. Right. Therefore, there's nothing to believe in, so therefore it's not a religion or something you need to abide by. It's natural law. And so again, these archetypes that play themselves out are integrated there. So the Western culture integrated with evolutionary astrology is just how we as human beings exist within the Western culture and what are the dynamics there versus the Eastern. Do you see how deep that goes?
Right.
And in terms of the Eastern looks at the philosophy of life from a natural law perspective, whereas Western culture looks more at the manifestation of creation, i.e. you man, God mind, because that's what it means to be human, by the way. It means to be God mind. So as you create your karma, you are literally acting as the God of your own universe, manifesting this creation in front of you. So that's why it's like, take responsibility for your actions, because you're the one that created them in the first place, even if it doesn't seem like that. You know, there are situations that are outside of your control. Fair enough. But a large majority of your actions in that sense are that way. So again, the lens that at least I look at evolutionary astrology and what they represent to me is that universe that I've just explored with you right now. That's the lens I look at it through, and how those truths are reflected. When you're in that space, all of a sudden sun sign in Taurus takes on a completely different role than, say, for instance, old paradigm astrology. You know what I'm trying to say? Just for a little bit of specificness sake, Taurus as an archetype in nature correlates to the instinct of survival. Therefore, if you manifest sun in Taurus, you are looking at the relationship that you have to yourself as like you're looking at understanding your needs, because your needs are a manifestation of the instinctual impulse of survival. So in a plant, for instance, if it looks at its environment, it says, I need this to survive. Therefore, if I'm in an environment that's very closed off in terms of trees and such, it would not manifest the need to have a very open sort of a behavior. In other words, a manifestation, because it needs a lot of sunlight. And if it's closed off due to branches and trees and so on and so forth, it will die. So you'll naturally know that if you watch nature very carefully, everything that's intrinsically interconnected will show you through its behavior how it actually is surviving. And you'll notice that by what it needs. So for you, and as you've just moved, a big part of what you have needed to challenge within yourself, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is how am I going to survive? I'm going to look at the situation, sustain my existence. If you understand what I mean. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It makes absolute sense.
So yeah, just to sort of like, you know, in my typical Sagittarius Pluto conjunct Mercury signature, that's the short answer. Because the long answer takes 3 years. Sorry.
Now, I was also curious about, how does evolutionary astrology look at sign cusp as one sign is merging into the next sign? There tends to be a sign cusp thing happening in my chart. I have a 29-degree Aquarian moon, and I have a Virgo stellium that crosses my 11th and 12th house. So again, that cusp is now being brought back up again, that Aquarius Pisces cusp. I'm just curious as to how evolutionary astrology looks at the actual cusp itself.
Okay, so let me kind of like ground that question so that I can really answer it specifically. Virgo stellium, not me, but let's have a look at this. So let's say, for instance, you have the 11th house, and then the sign that's ruling the 11th house cusp. Is that what you're specifically talking about? So if it's like
Well, my Virgo is actually in my 12th house cusp,
Okay.
but I have planets that extend into the 11th. But my 11th is in Leo. It's in a whole another sign.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the sign that's ruling your 11th house, by the way? Is it Leo?
Leo.
Okay. And then Virgo rules your 12th?
Yes.
Okay.
But the Virgo planets are in my 11th.
Okay. The first thing you've got to do, and this is where it becomes super cool when it comes to evolutionary astrology, because, and again, I'm going to try to be very specific about my answers, but the first thing that it does is it looks at the sign, the planet, and the house as one archetype. They're no different. So if I want to understand the nature of my ability to nurture myself and to give me security, then I look at the sign that's ruling the 4th house. So in this particular instance, let's just say it's Aries. Okay. Then I look at where the placement of the moon is in the chart. So let's just say it's like in 6th house. Okay. So therefore I know that it's a Virgo archetype and it's an Aries archetype that I'm needing to look at specifically how I'm nurturing myself. And then finally, what house is being ruled by Cancer? So let's just say 11th house. Okay. Or 10th house. Okay. Then I will take those 3 archetypes. So Aries, Virgo, and 10th house, and that's how I will specifically understand how my soul needs to nurture itself in this lifetime. Okay.
Okay.
So the Trinity. So what we do is that if we look at, for instance, if I want to understand how to spiritualize my life, sign that's ruling my 12th house. So in your case, Virgo, I look to Mercury in my, pardon me, to Neptune in my chart. So let's, in your chart, let's say, where's Neptune in your chart, by the way?
Sagittarius in my 3rd house. Oh.
Okay, so we've got 12th house ruled by Virgo, so therefore Mercury, and then we've got Neptune in third house, and Mercury is the same archetype, so we know it's about the mental mind here that's already starting to manifest itself. And then finally we look at the sign that's ruling your 6th house, which is not part of me, your 6th house. What am I saying? I'm mixing up your Virgo. I mean, what sign is ruling Pisces? What house?
6th house.
6th house. Ironically, okay. So we've got this. So that 12th house stuff, to understand the Virgo archetype or to understand your spirituality, you're going to look at Virgo. And what it's going to do, and I'm really trying to not confuse the situation here, but what it's trying to do is it's always pointing to 3 archetypes that will always elevate itself to you straight away in your chart. And just from this conversation, I can already see that it's got a lot to do with the 3rd house, 6th house relationship. In other words, discernment. In other words, the relationship to taking like boatloads of information and putting it in an organized way that kind of makes a little bit of sense, that's practical for you.
Yes.
And so there will be specific reasons within that chart of why the soul would manifest that specific constellation around your house system. Okay, so for instance, if you really want to access evolutionary astrology, you ground yourself in the archetype of why. So why do you have a Virgo stellium? Why do you have Neptune in 3rd house? Why does Pisces rule your 6th? When you do that, then you all of a sudden start penetrating the surface and you access the core that is existing within the chart. You're actually asking yourself to deeply reflect on these things, right? That's how it works, right? Naturally. So if you're Pluto going to the core of something, Scorpio, 8th house, Pluto, you're going to be asking the questions, why? Why this situation? So again, when we do that, we objectify those placements in the charts, and then we see it in our own lives as that observation archetype. So that's the kind of process, that's the attitude, that's the way. And then what comes to mind intuitively for yourself is specific to you, because then you're inducing that necessity for reflection to take place.
Right.
It's not me telling you what it is. It's you connecting with your higher self and soul in a way that's a little bit more intimate, that is personal to yourself. So it's not something that's authority given to you. In other words, me telling you what I think it is versus you intuitively knowing it.
Yes, I get that.
Right?
I get that.
You see what I mean? And then that gives you that opportunity to honor the natural law of individuality and individual context.
Okay.
Because you as a soul will naturally manifest that Virgo stuff there. And tell me if I'm not answering the question, because I can absolutely change my direction. But
no, you are.
What naturally happens there is that Virgo stuff, you can have somebody else that was born literally in the same hospital as you at the same time, and then have a completely different expression of that archetype. because their stories and timelines that they've experienced are so different to you. Therefore, their interaction with that Virgo archetype could be an incredible amount of criticism from living lifetimes under incredible amounts of oppression. Whereas for yourself, you could have just been an incredibly specific professor that was detailed, and you like to write and so on and so on. You could have been the person that would have been the judge and oppressor in that way. You see how the difference would be? So I come to you and I say to you, oh, look, you're suffering from an incredible amount of judgment and inner self lack of confidence. And you go, actually, no, I'm pretty opinionated in that sense. You see the subtle differences?
Yes.
In fact, I do that with a lot of my students. I emphasize the fact of how to cultivate subtle differences in the charts that really show you the beauty and depth of your own individuality versus just taking, Virgo in 6th house, or Virgo in 12th house on the internet and going, oh, you've lived under mental entrapment and, this type of stuff. It's like, no, I really want to know what my soul's journey is about, actually.
Right. Okay.
But specifically, if I had to again, intuitively come through to this experience, every time you do manifest a lot of Virgo in the charts, the soul is intrinsically causing a big crisis here. Okay. If you ever try to understand Virgo, imagine these two stories. Number one, have you ever noticed when we try and express something to create attention, we always put a multitude of ellipsis dots behind everything, or exclamation marks?
Right.
That's Virgo. Right. Crisis. It's like, okay, we've got to pay attention to the situation. It brings us into the moment straight away. Virgo. Focus right here, right? And then the other archetype of Virgo is the one of the centipede, where it's going along its road, it's walking along, and it's like, da, 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 and then leg 46 breaks. And what happens is that the control center in the head of the centipede turns back like this, observes broken leg 46, and freaks out, has a crisis, dysfunctions, going, we can't go anywhere. Leg 46 is broken. We've got an issue. This is an emergency. Pay attention to the situation.
Right.
And really what's happening here is that Pisces, the polarity point, kicks in and goes, could we just go with the flow because there's another 99 legs that can carry us?
Yes.
So what Virgo... Right, precisely. So what Virgo does is says, pay attention to the situation. There's a crisis here. Focus on this area. Heal it. So whenever you look at Virgo, actually look at Scorpio at the same time. Why? Because Virgo sextiles Scorpio and then forms a yod. And what happens is that, for instance, whenever you have a crisis, what's your natural instinct after you've observed the crisis? You confront it, Scorpio.
Right.
That leads to the removal of the limitation. And it all points to Aries, which is whenever you have a crisis, do people handle themselves really, really well in crises by being calm and relaxed? Or is it like freaking out Aries, oh my God, shit's going to happen? Do you see how this yod is manifesting itself?
Yes, and that actually brings that. Wow, if Virgo's looking at Scorpio, then it's looking at Uranus in my chart, and that explains a lot.
Again, Virgo naturally inconjuncts the 11th house, which means 6th house naturally inconjuncts the 11th house. So what we have here is that whenever we Aquarius archetype of fracturing, this is when the soul intends to liberate itself, which is why your moon's 29 degrees going, I'm sick and tired of whatever it was that I did before this. Yes. And I'm now breaking out. I'm liberating myself. I'm freedom. But there's this perspex lens between you and other reality because it's need to objectify everything to the point where you actually detach. That's intrinsic to the Scorpio Aquarius square. But Virgo inconjuncts it. So we don't actually realize that when we detach from the immediate environment, Virgo, we create that angle between 11th house and 6th house, which is we detach from the environment that allows us to observe the environment in a holistic way, Pisces, but we're not interacting in the moment, Virgo. Does that make sense? In fact,
it does. Absolutely.
In that way. So if you naturally have Virgo, you will naturally have a connection to Aquarius as well. You'll notice this. Do friends charts and you'll see big Aquarius signatures and you'll go, oh, look, there's Virgo happening there as well.
Right.
Because it's the healing modality of really observing the environment in a holistic way. Aquarius into Pisces in that sense. And then obviously the polarity point.
Okay.
So I haven't overloaded your system, right, with information.
No, you're spot on. I totally understand.
Cool. Dan, do you have any questions that
Yep.
you want to open up with? We can absolutely come back to yourself as well, Jackson. Not a problem.
Yeah, that's
And then
fine.
we can go to Keith as well if you want to.
Actually, you know how there's been a lot of awakening at the start of this year for a lot of people, and it's apparent through all the websites that I visit, and I see, and even within my circles of friends and families as well. My sister and her boyfriend in particular, they've really taken it to another level where they've completely quit their jobs and just moved out to the country and try to go off the grid, like completely. They've bought a caravan, they've got some solar powered devices, and they've just plonked themselves on this land. They've agreed with the landlords and what's not, the people that own the property, so that they're trying to be really self-efficient by getting water from the creek that's 100 meters down the road, getting a tank. And oh my god, it's very overwhelming for me, but for them, for some, they when they talk, they probably sound a bit crazy, because they're reading this Urantia book. I'm sure you're familiar with, and all this David Icke's, and getting into really deep shit. You know what I mean? It's and the thing now is that they're running out of money. Self-efficient is self-efficient, but you got to eat. You know what I mean?
And just out of sheer curiosity, can I take that opportunity to show you the connection between Taurus and Cancer and the natural zodiac? They sextile each other. So whenever you're trying to nourish yourself, Cancer, you're intrinsically connecting to the Taurus archetype, i.e. the sextile of survival. So nourishment and survival go hand in hand. So naturally how you're saying, okay, you've got to eat in that sense. Self-sufficiency goes a certain way, but you need to nourish yourself.
Yeah.
So you can...
Thank you. Yes, I'm a little bit concerned, because she's a Virgo, and she's a smart girl. I'm very self-efficient and able to do a lot of things independently. But right now, especially with her boyfriend, he's older than her, and he's, I love these guys and I want to encourage them. But you got to come back down to earth and see how it does. Unfortunately, we still have to make money. We can't just disappear like this, because we'll end up hurt more than what we're trying to achieve.
Yep, that's right. The thing is though is that I would like to offer my perspective on that process, because I deal with it on a regular basis, especially this being my path and such. A lot of my work is encouraging souls to step out of the matrix and spend some time doing a lot of inner reflection and clearing out all cosmic karma and stuff like that. But then if you watch the final Matrix film, it shows you that Neo goes back into the Matrix to fight the Smith, as it were. And what happens at the end is that he surrenders. And really what he's actually trying to reflect to us in a symbolic meaning is that when we go back into the Matrix, because you can't escape it, this is Earth. Earth is a natural matrix field. She has actually vibrated into fifth dimension. She's there at the moment, but we're still trying to get used to the energy. And that's why it's very confusing for us right now. And a lot of people are going crazy because they're not on that space yet. But what I wanted to say was that what happens is that a lot of people detach from the matrix because of the fact that it's programmed at the moment with an incredible amount of spiritual disconnect. Okay. Humanity has gone through a mass period of time where our essential connection to the goddess, the connection to nature, and so on and so forth has evaporated. It's still there, but we have this illusion of separateness, okay, that we're not connected. And so therefore we have this deep pain within us of love that is not existing internally, and so on and so forth. So we manifest existential love by buying things for ourselves and all that type of stuff. In fact, that was the crucifixion of Christ himself in that sense. The archetype of Christ is the surrender to the experience of finding the kingdom of God within. So as we come back into this time frame right now, we are literally having a culmination where we're learning this entire lesson of finding the kingdom of God existing within, i.e. that the source of creation is us. That's what that consciousness was trying to teach. And so we had to directly experience it for ourselves to find it. So the matrix of reality is one of keeping people suppressed and in this space of perpetual like absence of love. And they are on an unconscious level reacting to this experience by then leaving the matrix, because then when they detach from it, they then connect with each other in a way that is now full of love. But then what happened is this experience is that then the natural structure of our reality then is not being coexisting within. We're literally detached from a dwarf grid. And then we have to literally manifest solar manual and all this type of stuff. Now, you can absolutely live like that. There isn't anything wrong with living like that. You don't need money, because essentially everything in creation itself doesn't actually use money. Only we as human beings do. Do you see there's a little bit of an issue here with the fact that we pay rent to live and no other plant does that? You know?
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say here is that you can live like that. However, if you want to be part of the collective evolution that is manifesting on Earth and the integration and unity, you can't detach, because then you're not actually coming back into society, teaching people to live in an eco way versus in a detached way. So i.e. not looking for the ego, but looking at the, right. And sometimes souls need to go through that detachment process to then rebound off the reality of that detachment, and then come back and go, okay, shit, I actually did need to live in this experience.
Especially knowing what they know and what they're feeling. You're right. They can share it with others and, encourage more people to,
That's right. But I promise you right now that function of reality and the monetary exchange and so on and so forth within the next, so it's gonna go faster, but you'll start to notice that necessity is gonna have a whole new definition. The archetype of money and exchange, it's gonna look vastly different, but we have to wait a little bit of years for that consciousness, or our collective consciousness as a global community, to catch up to that realization. But we're progressively getting there, and a lot of the work that we do behind the scenes, especially the stuff that I'm going to reveal to you guys for the next couple of days, is how that process is going to work. and so on and so forth. So this is going to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. So I hope I'm not going to freak you out. But my purpose is to integrate it back into Earth. You are right. We live on Big Mama, so we've got to still stay here. You know what I mean? We can't be galactic beings in that space over there and forget about our physical body. We won't nourish ourselves and we'll die. And that just is So we have to be in that sense. So you're doing that sun sign Taurus karma with her by going come back down to Earth.
But
to survive.
I love and respect her so much. I kind of, and it's like looking at a little child trying to do something that they can't, but it's so cute, sort of thing. So you're like, oh, all right, I love you, go do it,
I'm sure she'll be happy to listen to this recording and go, my bigger brother, is seeing me as this little kid playing around with some bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get water with a bucket from a creek. Or like trying to cook on a little plastic stove that your mum got you for Christmas or something like that. You know what I mean? Gorgeous. I love it. Brilliant. But I did something similar. Like I mentioned earlier, that I left my job, and because the environment I was in was very as a supervisor, team leader, I was very pushing for productivity, and always had my boss behind my back. And I was like, this year everything's changed for me, and I just started feeling really uncomfortable in that environment where I couldn't push people anymore. Instead of pushing them to be more productive and work faster, because we have to meet quotas and deadlines and whatnot. I want to get out of that. I was a team leader of like 17 people, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing to these people? I was just standing back and watching them going, I'm so sorry. I've done this to you guys.
Do you want to know? You want to know something? You know how I mentioned that Earth or Earth in itself has a frequency, she vibrates, and she's at the moment where she's sitting in the fifth dimension. She's moved into that space of unity, and that connection that you've managed to have with the realization of you seeing your brotherhood. You're naturally seeing the connectedness. I've got a navel canal, and so do you. Therefore, why are we seeing ourselves as different? Why does this hierarchy has to exist? And so you connect with them, and you go, Jesus, I'm your friend. I'm your brother in that sense. Even though that's the fifth dimension. That realization of that unity consciousness of going, no.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by the fall. People will start to come to this realization and go, Jesus, and then all of a sudden the matrix will start to evolve in a different direction, where we're all existing peacefully in some way, shape, or form, but still making ourselves like expressing ourselves. You know what I mean? In that way, like if you enjoy, like, what brings you joy? Do you enjoy building stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like how you know that type.
I like cooking. You know, I do a little bit of drawing. I like poetry. You know, I love to. You know, sometimes I get blind and then I just write stuff where I don't know what the hell I'm writing, but it feels really good and amazing. And
can I inspire you to really grasp this concept I want to share with you right now? And that is to say that as you start to progressively move across Earth's timeline in a more organic way, in other words, a timeline, that you'll realize that as we stand here today, like how many people are sitting here right now listening to this conversation, that we all are an expression from the same creation. In other words, the only thing that manifests itself on Earth or in this galaxy is source. And so therefore, everything that is a manifestation of that is a reflection of source. And so therefore, the only thing that makes us appear different is our choices in a direction. So for instance, you're reflecting to me what source looks like when you make that choice going in that direction consistently, but you're still connected to me in every way. And so what I want to encourage you to do with your expression of light is to show the world what reality and life looks like going in that direction. And the way that you do that is by sharing with us your poetry. You know what I'm trying to say? Like expressing it, letting us see your light. And really opening up that vibration, because there's going to be so many people that's going to go, wow, that's so cool. I'm attracted to that rainbow frequency.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea what I'm up to. I've bought this shirt printing kit, and I've moved states, and I've got like 200 shirts in these like 5 bags, and a printer and a press, and I've drawn up all these chakras that I've already printed a few shirts. I can't wait to go down to the local market and just put these up and just share this awesome feeling.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully everybody can feel that vibration that I'm putting into the intention, you know?
Yes.
Oh my God. And that's why in your last video you said, make sure what you're doing now, make sure you integrate it within yourself, everything, you know? Whatever you do, you know, right now. And that's why it so resonated with me. It's like, oh my God, I'm trying to stay grounded, and you're telling me that how Mars is in Taurus now, helping me slow stuff down, you know? Because happening. You know, I'm so excited. Oh my goodness.
Awesome. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm great. Simon, how are you doing?
Yeah, fantastic.
Great stuff, man.
How can we hear your expression today? What do you have to?
Thanks for everything, everybody on the group here. You're really educating me in a big way. But I feel I'm a bit behind the wave, as it were, here. So I just wanted to know how reincarnation, plays itself out in all of this.
Good question. I like it.
Okay. He pulls up his sleeves. Like, why did you do this to me, Keith? Why did you ask me?
No.
And it's not because I can't answer it. It's just, how do I answer this question? Okay, so what happens is that the current vibration that you're on at the moment, the current perception of reality, is this very linear perspective. So you see things in a way of past, present, future. It's actually pretty impossible for your senses, your 5 senses, to understand or conceptualize anything that is outside the realm of time and space. And this is a big part of obviously what we as human beings have incarnated onto Earth to experience is an experience of life in a very sort of like, movie orientated experience where everything seems to manifest itself in a gradual experience. Like, you grow up and then you become sort of a mini adult, and then you have, your midlife, et cetera, and then you have your old age, and then you pass.
All right.
And it's just like a film. It gets created 6 months before you watch it. And so what happens is that reincarnation exists in the arena of existence or life above the time-space continuum experience, so i.e. 6th, 7th dimension. And in that space, everything is already manifested. The whole entire universe is already in existence. And every possible like experience of life itself has already expressed itself. What you are is pure awareness. So when you shift your awareness into a specific timeline, then you experience that expression of creation through the perception of your 3D lens, i.e., as if it's past, present, future. So one life in this particular instance, like right now, you're experiencing a timeline. And just before you started this conversation, you were experiencing a reality, a timeline, right? And a reality. Then you came here, and now you're experiencing this timeline. But then once this ends, your awareness will shift into a different dimension of time, and you'll experience that one. And you, as a soul, in terms of your awareness, has shifted dimensions. So, so what happens here is that reincarnation works in the same way, but just in a sense where your experience of your life is a little bit slower in terms of every moment, every sort of day that you experience is extended. It's a lot slower. The motion of the realities that you experience are a lot slower. So your soul is actually consistently always vibrating. It's always in existence. There is no time in that experience. There is no sense of motion, because that's what time is, motion. From one reality to another, and the realization of what it means to shift from one reality to another. That's what time is. Okay? So when we shift from time to time, then we experience our lives manifesting over the perception of time. And so the soul doesn't have any of that. So it perceives itself as just experiencing the totality of creation, but this life for you is just experiencing one reality in that way. Your awareness is fixated, Pluto, which is why evolutionary astrology correlates Pluto to the soul's desires, because it's the core intention and fixation that the soul has chosen to incarnate into this lifetime to experience itself here. Okay? So in other words, this life that you've just recently, that you've experienced right now is one dimension of reality, okay, that your soul has chosen to experience. And then when you pass on, you let go of the physical ego, the body. And then your soul moves into the astral plane, sits in the fifth dimension and obviously the higher dimensions, et cetera, and says, okay, how do we play out this next role? Can you help me with this incarnation? And you'll pick somebody like this. This is what soulmates are about. Specific people that come into your life at specific points in time to activate specific lessons that you are inducing relative to a predefined reality, right?
Great.
So everything in the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimension has already manifested itself. So reincarnation is just a terminology that is used to really define something that is about experiencing life in a linear way, and then just us. So we have another experience. We go, oh, let's have another experience. So in fact, you actually, as you guys right now, experience reincarnation almost on a moment-to-moment basis. Because as this, think about it. Prior to this conversation that you had with me right now, you were doing something. Then that died. You're not experiencing it anymore, are you? Now you're experiencing this. This conversation will die, and you'll then be reborn into a new reality, rising sign.
Right.
Consistently being born into a new reality, and how you interact with that journey. The reincarnation aspect of your life just expands itself. So you've switched from the previous reality to this one, to the next one, on a very small level, and you're conscious of it. But from the soul's perspective, it's just doing that on a bigger scale, and you just experience life in that way.
Great. No, fantastic. Thanks so much, Simon. That's great. Thank you.
I hope that sort of really, really was, okay and clear in that.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. No, thank you so much. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Oh, no, I'm just fascinated by the questions that you already, answered, and hope there's more of it.
But does everybody get that idea of how that experience happens for itself?
Yes.
Dan, do you feel the same way, or Dan?
Dan, yeah.
He's like, oh, how do I process the stuff?
Yeah. I think I got a little bit of it. Really not complete. Not how reincarnation comes into it, actually.
Well, okay. So reincarnation is a word that really defines the action of something that's ending and then being reborn, then ending, then being reborn. So in terms of our lives as a human being, our the rebirth process is that when we pass from this plane, we let go of the experiences and attachments that we have here. We reflect back on it, and then we reincarnate back into another body.
Why don't we have a memory of it then? Because I remembered the conversation I was having before, but that's ended. But now, I'm talking to you now.
That's true, completely. But can you remember what happened 3 weeks ago at 12 o'clock on Tuesday?
All right, you got me.
So what's really happening here is that you're honoring the archetype of Mercury and Aquarius or Uranus. The astrology chart through hypnotherapy, and also when you understand the concept of time travel. By the way, you can actually time travel when you understand the fifth dimension. It's just that when you try to understand something through the left brain, it falls apart because time travel exists in a different dimension. Anyway, long story short, in this experience, the left brain Mercury function is your immediate environment. And so this is when we have our very short-term memory. But Uranus will correlate to the long-term memory of the soul, but also specifically where the unconscious memories of existence happen. And the way that you can objectify reincarnation is that when you react to a situation, most of the time your belief structure, your ideologies, your perceptions, and so on and so forth will all be skewed based on your karma. But because we haven't actually been really focusing on this a lot, none of us actually realize what that's about. Karma is a belief system that exists within you that you project into your reality. Then your reality reflects back to you saying you this must be true. And therefore you go, oh, okay, this is true. You understand? So a big part of what I'm going to be introducing into raising vibrations going forward as the vibration starts to get to a point where this makes sense, you actually have to change your karma by, on one level, letting go of a lot of stuff, but also understanding how karma works and how you can shift that reality. But we're not ready yet. We're not yet ready there. And as soon as I get the download for that experience to manifest itself, it will be on YouTube. But at the moment, understand that a big part of what you're experiencing right now on Earth is really, really getting in touch with your authenticity and this vibration of frequency. And you can see how it's freaking you out because you're going like, oh my God, I want more of this. Right? Because I was going, I've been deprived of this for almost 6,000 years.
I'm not doing enough sometimes, Like it's not really fast enough for me, Like the feeling I get is like 1,000 times over, and I don't have enough time to experience it all, sort of thing.
So I hope that's sort of like,
I do get it.
Right. It's like the ocean and the wave analogy. I'm going to get to you now, Jonathan, because I know you've got some questions to ask. What I wanted to say to you is that whenever you look at the ocean, I want you to look at the way that consciousness operates is the ocean itself. It's the entire ocean, water. Everything is interconnected within each other. There's no separateness, consciousness. And then what happens is we have a wave manifest itself from the ocean, as it were. And so you can see Pluto, i.e. the desires of the soul, as the wave separating itself from consciousness to experience itself, right? In other words, I'm a wave. Let's see what this experience is like. But if you look at what a wave really is, it's an energetic vibration. So you as a human being are a reflection of that incarnation onto Earth and that wave of expression and reflection. And then what happens is the crest of the wave reflects the ego structure. So in other words, the wave identifies itself with the most poignant aspect of itself, the ego. So in your life, you identify yourself with Dan. Jackson identifies himself with that. But really what you've got to do is identify yourself as a soul, experiencing itself as many, many different lifetimes. And when you get yourself into that space where you shift your consciousness awareness into that, going back into your soul, you'll start to remember your past lives because you'll be really connected to that space. So the wave reflects to us, but you notice that there's just shitloads of waves of the wave of a wave of a wave of a wave. And in your life, you just consistently are seeking desire after desire after desire after desire. But tell me, what does a wave do when it's completed its cycle? It returns back to the ocean and then goes, oh shit, I've never actually been separate at all. That's when you start to realize that there must be something more to your life than just chasing existential love. And then you go, oh wait, the soul's here. You do that enough times and you start to then realize that actually the journey in life is about realigning your ego structure, i.e. this journey, with the desires of your soul that are linked with your consciousness. The water trine, Pisces, Scorpio, Cancer. When you do that, you're in perfect synchronicity and harmony because you're in alignment. And that's what's happening on Earth right now. which is why you'll notice anything that doesn't work for you in your life is literally coming to this like roadblock, and it's going, this doesn't work for you anymore because it's not authentic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you going like this. Here's your frame, and anything that exists outside that frame is just going to be shedded away completely until you eventually become a true authentic self.
Yay.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does this resonate with you guys? Because sometimes I feel like I'm just in a different galaxy, and when I'm connecting over here, I'm like, maybe these people think I need a little bit more of those medications from pharmaceutical companies.
Not at all.
My moon's at 29 degrees Aquarius. You cannot be any more further out there than my mind's already there. So you're fine.
Sweet. Yeah, my soul chose to manifest boatloads of Aquarius in its chart. So, you know, in that sense. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm good, man. I'm just absorbing it all. I've done a lot of research in the past few weeks, and my consciousness is growing daily, minute by the minute. I can't keep up with it. Like I don't know. It's going in every single direction, and the more I learn about it, the more I realize I feel like I've been awake almost my entire life. Like I'm trying to figure out where it started. I'm trying to figure out how I became so different from everyone else around me.
Okay.
Why is it that everyone is just now waking up to see the problems in the world? The problems have always been there. They've just changed. Like I'm trying to figure out what stage I'm at, and you know how and you're right. People reflect who you are. You can only know who you are based on who you affect, who you intertwine with. And that's what I've always said. I've always said that I can only figure out what I am. And I use other people as a gauge, because that shows you, it reflects you. And I never really thought about it that way, but you think about it afterwards, you're like thinking, wait a second, I've done that. I've already, you know, it's you get different answers for what's already existing. And so it completely, you know, you do a 180, and it's like, wait a second, you know, it's incredible, because sometimes you don't know your potential. You don't know who you actually are until you actually start asking different questions from different perspectives based on different light people have reflected back to you. You know, it's incredible. And to be honest, the only reason I haven't realized I've been awake this entire time is because my perspective has always kind of been here and now. It's always been in the future, but only applicable here and now. So I went through my youthful years with kids and whatever, getting made fun of in school. And I was kind of wondering why I was so different and all that sort of stuff. And then you grow up and you think things change, but they don't. The same crap happens over and over again. The same idiot people you run into, you know, and then you go to school and you go to college and you think, okay, maybe these people are going to be different. And then you get out and you realize everything's the exact same as it was 25, 20, 30 years ago. It's just manifested differently. And now is when it's really applying to you. And now is when now's the time to change. And now is the time to bring everyone with you.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you right now, just listening and feeling into your energy pattern, there's a lot of serenity that is with you at the moment. And and even though you might not identify it instantaneously, I can feel it. There's a lot more calmness in your voice. There's a lot more sort of like, okay, I get this picture. It's still confusing. It's a little bit sort of like, but you know, I'm progressively starting to be a little bit more relaxed at the fact that the world is the way that it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm more accepting it because I'm understanding more about the way it is now. The people in it who have manifested the world we live in, to be honest, I never really, throughout my years, I've always kind of been frustrated about interacting with people that are not, I'm going to call it awake, because I feel like I've been awake my entire life in just different levels of awakeness. Because I've always wondered why people do what they do. Why do they react the way they react? Why do they feed into a collective consciousness, why do they need other people to feel better about themselves?
Yep.
Why, like it's constant over the years. And to be honest, it's to the point now where I may seem calm, but I'm more extremely frustrated because I've been around these people the entire life, and they question why things happen, and then it happens, and then they're like, what the hell? How can that happen to me? I'm like, well, look what you just did. Look at the choice you just made. Look at the conscious choice you just made, whether it was conscious or unconscious. Nothing is spontaneous. It happens because you did it. And they're confused. And I'm like, it's so obvious. Like it's.
Do you know what I want to offer you at this point in time that I think is really important to help you find that inner serenity, because it is honestly, if I could give you a goal to work with for the next week up until next week's questions and answers, is to spend a little bit of time trying to see that your inner vibration is what is how you're interacting with a lot of these souls. And so what I mean by that is that when you find the serenity and peace within yourself, you'll notice that the outside world doesn't actually affect you that way. So if you're wanting to seek to find that outer peace, it has to be found from within first. Okay. So then the second thing is to challenge you on this experience by going, if you are an awakened being in that way, because it's not actually a status. That's the thing that I really want to encourage you to know about this experience. To be awake is not to be in a space of I'm awakened and then you're not, because that's kind of like a spiritual ego type thing. But what you want to do is
just a thought process.
What you want to do is go, okay, so did you see that choice that you make? Did you see how that influenced your life in that way? Here's a suggestion. When you approach it from that point of view, you're actually in harmony with another person's distortion. And then you actually are able to help them feel more comfortable within their own pain versus them saying, I've done something like unconsciously wrong, and therefore I need to be even more crucified for the fact that I'm dumb about that process.
The problem with that is when you offer a suggestion, if you are not in if you're not in what they think is a reputable level, they're not going to hear what you're saying. They're going to argue with you because they think you're insulting what they're doing.
Okay.
They're going to, you know what I mean? Like you have to be so extremely sensitive to their vibration to come at it from a certain perspective that will not set them off.
Yes. But do you know why that's the case? Because unconsciously those people are still acting from a space of pain. So you have to really be able to acknowledge their own like pain within themselves. So they're not actually acting from a space of like wanting to embrace this. Nobody's been taught to accept the darkness. So therefore, when you're embracing that experience, you're actually being there and holding space for them to project their own pain onto you and then for you to transmute it.
Right.
Okay. And that's a difficult process. But if you're wanting to engage in people and help, that's what you have to acknowledge. And if you're not, then you're going to consistently create that experience.
What do you think about when people who are able to absorb dark, or I don't know if you want to call it dark light, I don't know what you want to call it, absorb the negative vibration from people and I feel like I'm always able to absorb the negative energy, and I'm able to turn it into light. I'm able to change it into a positive energy, and it makes people feel better when they have people to absorb their negative energy. Like I always find I'm the person to take the brunt of things, and because I am a stable person and I'm able to think things through differently than other people. People feel in school is the same way. And when I was in elementary school, grade 7, 6, whatever, I always got made fun of, but no one ever saw it come out in me because I was so able to stabilize my emotions over many years. And what is that? Like, why?
You know,
what does that mean?
The thing is, though, is that I understand where you're coming from. And, the one thing that I do want to encourage a lot, especially because at the moment, any frequency that is on a hierarchical state will not be supported. People will literally, that you won't match that vibration. So a lot of what you've got to recognize within yourself is that when you're looking at light and darkness, it's still the same thing. They're not actually separate. Dark supports light and light supports dark. And so when you see light workers are part of the same process as dark workers. There's no difference. They actually feed off each other. You want to transcend that duality and recognize the wholeness that exists. Therefore, whenever you are seeing another person that's projecting pain onto you in that way, you're actually trying to understand that you are a part of a collective consciousness that has distortion within it. And so therefore, you're offering your soul your sense of ability to transmute, i.e. to absorb darkness and turn it into light. But the way that you do that is not the way that you think. The way that you absorb darkness and produce into light is actually just by being present with people that have got pain. It's not about giving them the right or wrong answers. And trust me, if there's any person that learns how to understand that concept, it's me. Because a lot of my own journey was about trying to go, look, it's this way, it's like that, and then realizing that it's actually not about that. Because a lot of people don't want to have the answers. They just want to have somebody sit with them and just understand their heart.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, trust me, I've had to learn that lesson myself. So I'm talking to you from direct experience.
But
so it's not always about giving the answers. It's just about being present with them.
I can't sit there.
Serenity from Jonathan anymore.
I can't sit there and talk to someone who has viewpoints about things that actually end up hurting them, because everything's connected. People have viewpoints that not only hurt themselves, but they hurt other people, or they have ideas about things that just are self-destructive, that are not helpful at all, and they don't understand how they're connected to other things. They idolize people who have terrible viewpoints, and they don't realize how destructive it is to their own individual.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, I understand what you're saying.
It hurts my brain to think that they're doing that. It's such negative. Oh.
The problem that I want to share with you right now is that there isn't actually anything as negative, honestly. Because when you identify something as negative, you're instantaneously rejecting the process as something that's not part of creation, that's supporting our evolution. So what you've got to see it as something that is disempowering, i.e. that is not creating a centered heart space that allows unity to manifest itself. And because an objective in some way, shape, or form is to return back to that space of understanding your sovereignty, in other words, as a human being, what you are really describing to yourself, as I understand it, is just you're identifying a lot of the pain that exists in the collective. And so you're on that process of becoming more and more aware of how that's operating, but your modus operandi, and please try this out. It's so important. It really, really is.
Which?
This what I'm about to share with you right now is just that when you are stepping into that space of understanding this dimension, or this understanding of reality, you really have to be honoring the other person's process in their journey. And that's when you can really give them a lot of respect in that space and go, okay, you're unaware of this process. I am seeing an objective in an objective space, but on an unconscious level, your actions need to represent the reflection of their sovereignty. In other words, if that's their choice to experience creation through that way, then that's what their choice is. You can't force them to change it. But what you can do is go, hey, like, this is disempowering for you. Is there something I can do to help? Literally in that tone. And if they say no, then it's okay.
But it's part of this. It's part of nurture, not nature, that they're the way they are. Because when
you do that,
had a choice,
you intrinsically detach yourself from reality, from humanity.
Well, no,
there is no such thing as they.
What? Say it again.
They are not disconnected from you. The souls that are experiencing their own pain.
Well, you need to differentiate yourself somehow.
Yes, I understand.
I mean, yeah. So, but you have to understand that these people, they think they're making choices, but they're making choices based on what other people are telling them to do, or what they're surrounded by. Or if they didn't have those things, they would be making different choices that would benefit them more. It's
so here's your mission. Here's your mission. Okay, your job is to start connecting with like-minded people that understand the idea of liberation, and start creating specific YouTube videos, centers, whatever it is that makes you happy, that allows people to find that truth for themselves in a way. Because the moment you project that onto them,
I already have a website, actually.
Right, there we go.
I already have a website.
Right.
I haven't got around to doing it because there's so many questions and answers that are in this universe that I'm still trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out all the dimensions, everything. Like it's incredible how much is out there.
Right. I just wanted to say too quickly, I want to move over to Rob because he's just joined. And also, I've got about like literally 10 minutes left, guys, because I've got another like conversation or a reading with somebody just at 9:30, and I've got to set up for that. But I want to continue with that conversation as well, Jonathan, and we will definitely create space for that. But how you doing, Rob? You okay?
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, things are good.
That's good to hear.
Well, they've been interesting. I mean, ever since our reading, it's been quite a process. You know, things have been unfolding, and boy, I have these days where I feel like just so aligned, and then days where I'm so not aligned.
Okay.
But I feel like it's a progression. So. Yeah, so things are going.
Would you say that the non-alignment process has been happening just recently, or would you say that it's been since like December last year or so on and so forth?
Well, certainly it was that event I shared with you in August, the relationship that ended. Certainly for me, that was the point. Although actually through meeting that person, which was the previous, probably about actually December, was when the emotional roller coaster started, that culminated with that. And then, so yeah, actually it really does go back to December. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's a process that's been, my reading with you was a major help to get me oriented towards where I was actually going.
Right.
And it's been this process of finding that alignment, and then the next morning I might wake up and I'm out of it, and I have to bring myself back in, and then I find it again, and then it can be mind blowing at times where I just feel unlimited.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's on an upward
progression.
Yeah.
The helix.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just to throw a question out there, something that I've been thinking about is in regards to relationships. I've been feeling like, looking back, that I have this enormous Gemini kind of orientation, and I was always wondering why that was, because I don't have anything in Gemini.
No.
I don't have Venus in Gemini. I don't have Mars in Gemini, especially. But what suddenly hit me just in the last day or two was that my Mars is at 1 degree of Cancer.
Okay.
And I was thinking about, and I think in a previous discussion you had addressed a little bit of the degrees of the planets, and I said to myself, okay, well, so I'm working on this development of inner security, which has absolutely been happening. But it's like in relationships up to this point in my life, I've always just wanted to have experience. Mm-hmm. Let me just experience anything, whatever this person wants. Let me try to fit that, and I'll experience that. And then they might change their mind, and then oh, she wants to be in a relationship now, so I'll do it. And then, oh, she wants to be friends. What do I know? Let me try that. And, maybe that experience would be better. And so not drawing any conclusions for myself. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that's so Gemini. And then or it seems so Gemini. And then what I was noticing about my chart is that if I'm in 1 degree of Cancer with my Mars, have I been in previous lives going through Gemini in relationship to my Mars?
Okay.
And now at this critical degree of 1 degree, just changing, flipping over.
Yeah.
And in this life, it's like, all right, enough of just experience.
Diversity. Well,
yeah.
I can share with you that there's 2 ways to look at that situation. Okay. What did I want to say earlier? You had said something about the astrology, and it really, I was like, I needed to fix the old paradigm astrology and realign it with, oh, yes, every single archetype within your astrology chart is integrated within you. You are completely holistic and you are completely whole. So even if you don't have any planets in a sign, it doesn't mean that it's not present within yourself. It's just an aspect of your consciousness that is not emphasized in that sense. But you still have a sign ruling your third house, and you still have Mercury somewhere in your chart, and you still have Virgo somewhere in your chart. So there's a lot of Mercury, Virgo, Gemini stuff still manifesting itself. So for instance, if you had Aries on the cusp of your third house, and then you've got Mars in Cancer, Aries and Mars are the same archetype. So there's a natural need to connect and, allow your communication with your self-image to work through that process. Just as an example. So you will always have Gemini in your chart. You need to define stuff. It's how you use the left brain. When it comes to the 1 degree stuff, I noticed that it's only about Pluto and the nodal axis that will correlate to signs moving into a new sign, and then having residue from past lives where it's been in that previous existence, especially the nodal axis, the moon's nodes. And the moon nodes move backwards. So if you've got somebody that's got like 1 degree nodal axis, you'll notice that they're actually quite conflicted within themselves, because they're going, I've been there before, it feels secure, but this is a new direction. It's actually quite funny. I know that with my Pluto at least. So what was I going to say? So the Mars in the first house, then we need to do a little bit of evolutionary detectiveness and ask the questions, why would somebody have Mars in 1 degree of Cancer? And is there anything in the chart that's saying that this is the new cycle that the soul's joined or started? Or is there something specific to the soul's consciousness that's really, really, again, new in terms of its nurturing capacity? And so therefore Mars in Cancer, 1st degree. This is a new venture that you're about to take, or it's reflecting, literally. So it's a new direction. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it was with the Gemini archetype. Pluto 12th house soul will struggle a lot with being very sort of structured in its approach because of the fact that it's so fluid. Okay, the 12th house is that very fluid energy process. It's about surrender. It's about culmination. So in your relationship archetypes, you'll intrinsically want to just go with the flow, because it's a lot easier to then put your foot down and say, hey, I want to do this. The polarity point of your Pluto is Virgo, 6th house. It's like showing up in reality. So you'll naturally be challenged with that in relationships. I would look at, where's your Venus in your chart?
In 10th house Leo.
Okay. So a big part of that Venus archetype with 10th house Leo is, on one level, you're needing to validate yourself within relationships. Okay. The Leo is asking for you to validate yourself, to say, hey, I'm present, I'm here, look at me, can I have the attention on myself? And then the 10th house is asking you to define it. So a big part of that spiritual lesson for you is to actually come through and define your sense of inner and outer relationship in a way that is broadcasted. So if there was anything that I could really, really illustrate to you, next time you're in a relationship, bring it out, Hala. Because your voice needs to be heard.
Oh, well, like a megaphone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to go with the flow and nobody's going to pay attention to you, then you're just going to surrender and become a masochist.
Right.
Okay. So does that help in that process?
It does. It's something that I've been working on in Venus and Leo. And something I've been focusing on is the opposite, was the polarity point, which would be in Aquarius. It would be in Aquarius in the
4th. Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know, something that I've been working with recently is this actually letting go of that. I guess what Jeffrey would have called narcissism. Like feeling like you're the center of the universe with and just realizing that you're just one of a constellation of everyone in the universe, and everyone else just has their realities, and all of a sudden I've just stopped taking so much stuff personally in regards to other people in relationships. And so anyway, that's just another piece of it.
Awesome. Yeah. I would absolutely, that's just brilliant. Yeah, exactly. That's the highest vibration of Leo, is to go, look at my brilliance, but I'm here with a gift. Where do I fit in?
Right.
And when you do
Yeah.
that, you intrinsically get the community to accept you as individual, Aquarius polarity. But if you rock up going, I'm king, everybody's going to go, oh, look, hierarchy, piss off. So yeah, 2121, sweet. Dan, did I manage to at least in some way, shape, or form facilitate or have this time frame for you work for you in that way? Was it good?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm so glad. I just wait. I'm in Australia and it's like 5:30 a.m. over here. I didn't even see that you had a Q&A on right now. When I just woke up, I looked at my phone and it popped up. So
Synchronicity.
yeah, synchronicity. Beauty.
And what I want to do, Jackson, is actually maybe even next week do the same thing. Integrate it on a Friday if you're interested, if you've got that space. Because I know that you've been, I mean, it's such a difficult thing to get hold of you because you've emailed me for an evolutionary astrology reading. And I've got back into you and it's like, mail delivery failed or something of the sort. Anyway, so I'm more than happy to actually create the space again on a Friday if that works for yourself, Rob, or Dan. You know,
Absolutely.
guys, don't feel like you've just joined this and then now that's your time up. You can absolutely come here again. You know what I mean? This is the space to literally have this experience, to feel connected in that way.
Well, when do you put the notice up that when you're having a chat?
Well, for me, it depends on when my 2-year-old and 3-month-old allows me to do that. So sometimes it can be, 3 hours before, or sometimes it could be a whole week. It depends on exactly how much time I have to do that stuff. But check at the okay. So I'm going to try to make it for next week Friday. I don't see a reason why not. In that sense, but it's usually on Wednesdays that I'll have it. But I might shift it because obviously then I can, the point here is to unify everything. And if I can accommodate Jackson in some way, shape, or form, and everybody's here, then why not in that sense? So, yeah, just check the Facebook, okay? Always be pinned to the top.
Will do.
Cool. Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me to experience this with you and to be participating in that. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very helpful.
You're welcome. And have a fantastic day as it just begins in Australia. And I suspect as you guys are just enjoying your afternoon type of experience over there in the States.
Yes.
Cool. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.